Nice, isn't it? Well, no, actually, it looks pretty stupid. But I quite often wear one when I'm flying my drone in public. The funny thing about high-vis is they sort of look official, and they do help curb some of the aggression you get from a very scared public. And they've been scared some more recently. Yep, more reports of attacks on aircraft and airports by drones. Now, I don't want to get all repetitive, and I did do that video about the attacks at Gatwick, which has had fantastic support, and I thank you very much for that. But this latest story is a good one, much too good to ignore. Virgin flight comes within seconds of crashing into drones at Heathrow. Virgin Atlantic plane almost hit by 2 drones flying near Heathrow. Virgin Atlantic jet carrying more than 260 people in near miss with 2 drones near Heathrow. Wow, this sounds serious. Airline bosses are calling for a crackdown on drones. Pilots of a Virgin Atlantic Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner spotted the 2 drones by 90 feet. A Virgin Atlantic jet faced a collision at 14,000 feet with 2 drones as it was approaching Heathrow to land, sparking fresh fears over the dangers of remote-controlled aircraft. 14,000 feet? That's weird. A Virgin Atlantic spokesman said, "Virgin Atlantic can confirm that the pilots operating flight VS301 from Delhi to London on 14th of February 2019 reported seeing 2 drones as they flew over the county of Essex. Tragedy was avoided thanks to a member of staff who spotted the drones, one of which was just 90 feet, 27 metres away from the B787-9 Dreamliner jet. The alarm was raised by a cabin crew manager who saw the drones from the plane." That's odd. Not just the 14,000 feet thing. But I'm wondering why the Virgin Atlantic spokesman confirmed that it was the pilots who reported seeing these 2 drones, when the papers are saying that it's a staff member or the cabin crew manager. Does it sound more believable if it's pilots reporting these things? Luckily in the UK, we have a body whose sole job it is to record and report all near misses in aviation. It's called the AirProx board, and if anything was reported by the pilots, we should be able to find it online. And here it is. 14th of Feb, 787, 2 drones. Coordinates Brentwood and flight level 140. So it was at 14,000 feet. That's worth thinking about for a minute. The B787 pilot reports approaching LAM from the east when the cabin crew manager saw 2 multi-rotor drones on the right-hand side of the aircraft. The first drone was slightly low and a bit further out, whereas the second was close in and at the same level and seemed to take avoiding action. So it wasn't the pilots that saw this, it was the cabin crew manager out of a side window. Now, isn't the interweb a wonderful thing? We can now go online to various flight tracker sites and we can look at the logs and the records for this actual flight. I used Flight Radar 24 and it confirmed that on the 14th of February this plane was doing about 292 knots, that's roughly 330 miles per hour at 14,000 feet over Essex, when presumably it missed the 2 drones by 90 feet. Now I have some experience of how the news media work, and after the whole Gatwick incident, it wouldn't surprise me if more than one journalist isn't being paid to keep an eye on these AirProx reports, and they're looking for any juicy drone reports. What happens then is all of the other media, including the TV news, just play follow the leader. So the story starts with the published AirProx report, and that board is there to record every report of any incident or near miss. The sole objective of the UK Airport Board is to assess reported AirProx in the interests of enhancing air safety. It is not the purpose of the board to apportion blame or liability. From the wording of this Virgin incident, it looks like the pilots have to make the report and not the cabin crew manager who actually saw the drones. And I'm not sure if the AirProx board are actually required to test the validity of every report they receive. Maybe they just record and assess every incident in the interests of safety. So let's ask the big questions. Can a normal drone get to 14,000 feet? Well, surprisingly, looking at all the specs I can find, my little Mavic is one of the best performing for height, and it has a maximum ceiling of 6,000 meters above sea level. That's over 19,000 feet. So yes, and wow, I never realized. However, to do that legally and not fly above 400 feet, you'd have to take off from an 18,600 foot mountain. Okay, so my drone can reach 14,000 feet, but how long would it take to get there? Not from a mountain, but from Essex, which is quite flat. Well, again, looking at the specs for the most common off-the-shelf type drones, the most powerful model seems to be the Inspire 2, which can climb at 6 meters per second. That's pretty fast. So 14,000 feet, or 4,267 meters, would take us 711 seconds, or nearly 12 minutes, just to get that high. And that's with no wind and a full battery all the way up, which is impossible. So realistically, we're probably taking more like 20 minutes. And we haven't even started talking about how long it takes to come back down again, which surprisingly on most drones takes longer to go down than it does to go up. Well, unless of course you turn them off, and presumably it's a bit quicker then. According to the weather reports for February the 14th, the wind at 14,000 feet was approximately 46 miles an hour, which is above the maximum flying speed for any of the drones I've been trying to compare. So with most drone batteries lasting about 30 minutes, I think it's safe to say that you'll run out of power before reaching 14,000 feet on that day. And this report is for 2 drones at 14,000 feet. Maybe they were the mythical large industrial type drones that were attacking Gatwick over Christmas. But there's a much bigger problem here, and that's the cabin crew manager who looked out of a side window at 330 miles per hour and saw 2 drones taking avoiding action from 90 feet away. I know the Dreamliner has large windows for a modern jet, but I don't know exactly what the angle of view would be. I suppose it depends on how close the manager's face was to the window. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say that it's 90 degrees. That also makes our maths a lot easier. But the other thing we don't know is whether the distance to the drones was 90 feet from the window or from the aircraft, from the furthest bit of the aircraft, the wingtip. So once again, let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say it's the wingtip. So each wing on the 787-9 is 27 meters in length, which, if we add that to the 90 feet drone distance, which is coincidentally another 27 meters, we get a drone that is about 54 meters away from the side window. And if our angle of view is 90 degrees, that means the drone is in view for 76 meters as we fly past at 330 miles per hour, which is 147 meters per second. Or to put it another way, these drones were in view for about half of 1 second. Now, maybe we're not being fair here. Maybe the drones were flying in the same direction as the aircraft, or being pushed along by the 46 mile an hour winds. Well then, we're talking 127 meters per second at 76 meters, which is 0.6 seconds. So in less than 1 second, the cabin crew manager saw 2 large industrial-sized drones with enormous batteries, one of which he noticed took avoiding action. This is starting to sound like I'm calling the cabin crew manager a liar, and I'm definitely not. I have no idea what they saw, how big it was, or how far away it was. Maybe it was doing 330 miles an hour at 14,000 feet. And I'm not upset that these incidents get reported to the Airprox board. I think it's really important that every incident and near miss gets reported. It's the best way of improving safety. But what really does upset me is the way so-called journalists are repeating these reports as if they are fact. They don't ask the right questions. In fact, they don't ask any questions. I do know what it's like. You walk into a busy newsroom and you're given 4 or more stories to write that day. You barely have time to cut and paste, never mind thinking what you're saying. But you'd think, after the whole fake drones at Gatwick incident, that the media would be a little more cautious. Now, I want to be honest, this is not a drone channel. But when I was thinking about this story, I was well aware of how popular the video I made about the drones at Gatwick was. People clearly want answers. It's a safe bet that this video might also be quite popular. And then it occurred to me, am I falling into the same trap that I'm criticizing the news media for? Publishing stupid stories just to get more viewers? My bad.